story. The Department of Justice and Constitutional Development has called on the Truth and Reconciliation Commission identified victims of apartheid to apply for financial assistance for basic education as well as for higher education and training. The regulations relating to assistance to victims in respect of basic education and higher education and training came into effect on the 7th of November 2014. This, of course, provides for assistance to qualifying TRC victims and their qualifying relatives and dependents. We speak on the line now with Lufuno Mmbadi. She is Senior Manager, Truth and Reconciliation Commission from the Department of Justice. Good afternoon to you, Lufuno. Thank you so much for coming through. So I was asking as to who are these identified victims?
These are the people that actually went to the TRC and the TRC identified them as victims of gross human rights violations. And these people, their dependents and their relatives are the ones that we are assisting in terms of this education assistance.
So these regulations, as I said in my introduction, came into operation in 2014. So to date, how many victims have benefited from this fund?
To date, in terms of basic education, we are servicing 3,000 plus students or learners that have applied. When we started, we were at 333, but for 2020, we've been able to process plus minus 3,000 applications. With higher education, we started at 315. We've received about 700 applications currently for 2020.
All right. So of those 700 applications, how many or how much do you have? How much has been set aside for this particular initiative? Will everyone be funded, or will there be some prerequisites perhaps that you would be looking into?
It's not everybody who gets funded. For an example, a learner or a student who applies to be funded in a private institutions, we are not able to assist them, but we encourage them to say, please reapply, and may your application be for a public institution. Also, a person who do apply yet without knowing the issue that they are not related to anybody who was identified by the TRC as a victim, we also do not assist. So in terms of higher education, the number that has gone through to the administrator is 526, and with basic education, we've been able to submit 2,600 applications to the administrator for assistance with the reparation.
And as you said, part of the conditions is that learners must be enrolled only at public institutions. That sounds too limiting. What if I want to study at a private institution? What then?
The reason why we are not funding learners in private institutions is because where the fund is sitting, if we are to allow our learners to go into private institutions, a fewer number of TRC-identified victims, dependents, and relatives will get assistance. Where we started, we were funding students in private institutions, that is students who are studying at institutions of higher learning. That was until last year. That's when we said we will finish up the number which is already in the private institutions. But starting 2020, we can no longer continue with the funding in private institutions. So the main reason is that we need as many people as possible to be assisted from the available money. We therefore cannot promote private lending because then that limits the number that gets through.
Do you, at some point, not give these students problems in terms of paying out their tuition fees at institutions of higher learning and school fees? Because we know as it is now, there are many victims who are still awaiting their compensation. I know this is a different matter, but one would also be interested to know if you haven't perhaps come across any troubles in terms of ensuring that the fees are paid on time?
We have problems, yes. What has happened when we started, the process that we were using to get the money paid to the institution and the students themselves had a problem in the sense that we would request documentation which proves that money was used by the students for the funding at their school so that they could be reimbursed, actually for the administrator to be reimbursed. That proved to be very difficult for the administrator to do because it involved a lot of paperwork. And as a result of that, we then are working on amending the regulations to change the claim process into allowance. So this means that a student then will just get a textbook allowance, a meal allowance, a transport allowance, rather than the fund requesting the administrator to submit paperwork which proves that the student actually got that money, because it was delaying the process and frustrating a lot of our students. So at the end of the day, we were not achieving that which we wanted to achieve. But that has been changed. Like I said, for 2020, already there are some changes that have happened. For 2021 going forward, we are reviewing the whole process just to focus on giving students allowances so that their life is much easier.
All right, so let's just recap for those qualifying candidates. How do they go about sending through their applications, and perhaps the closing date for all applications?
Those who would want to apply can get the application form from our Justice website, which is www.justice.gov.za. Our closing date is 30th of September 2020 for the 2021 calendar, school calendar and academic year. So once they download the application form, and they are done with filling the application form, at the back of the form, there is an email address, postal address, and a fax number where they can send the application to.
All right, Lufuno, that's where we'll leave it. Thank you so much for coming through. Lufuno Mmbadi, Senior Manager, Truth and Reconciliation Commission from the Department of Justice, talking to us about the bursary scheme for the victims of apartheid regime.